Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
We are two artists reaching into the depths of fandom to find out what is worth taking back with us.
Yep, absolutely.
And
anime-wise in this case. So it's all weeb shit today.
Hey, if you're not a weeb, get the fuck out of here.
Just when you thought it was over.
Just when you thought it was. Once you thought we were getting into a classy podcast, it's finally time to talk some weeb shit. No, we're actually
following Do the Right Thing to okay, enough of that deep. It's like enough of that deep prevalent storytelling. Let's talk about some punchy shit.
Yes, exactly. Guys, we've talked about Dragon Ball before on this show, but this is something that we love. Deshaun got me into Dragon Ball, but Deshaun's been a Dragon Ball fan all his life. I want to explain to new fans.
Pretty much. So like a lot of American children, I watched all of Z on Toonami back in the day, and then because they just aired it incorrectly and Z was always the more marketable section of the franchise, despite there being no delineation in the manga, I had seen Z first, and then they aired Dragon Ball, and then GT.
Like most American audiences, I feel like.
Which is annoying because it puts OG Dragon Ball in this weird little bubble when it shouldn't be. It's literally the first.
It's still the same thing
of the franchise.
And that's what I will say one of my main reasons why I love this movie a lot is it felt like it loved Dragon Ball a lot. Like this movie felt like it was a connection to Dragon Ball more than it was to Z or even Super, like this felt like a continuation of Dragon Ball specifically, which I think comes from Akira's did the script, he did the storyboards, he did the, he was very much involved with this. And I feel you can feel it in this, He's
been actively involved since Battle of Gods. Since Resurrection F, he's pretty much written all the scripts for each of the movies.
Which I feel like, and no shame to any of the other movies, I feel like we've seen a marketable improvement since he's taken over on writing duties, where it feels more in line with the manga, more in line with everything.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot more on brand, even more so than the actual Super anime or manga themselves. Just because as far as the way that's produced, that's more just like, here's a vague outline of plot points. I'm old and I'm not gonna fucking draw all of this, so have fun. Whereas with the movie, it's just like, okay, I'll write the script.
Yeah,
so it feels a lot more authentic.
Yes. So I will want to say right off the bat that this is the most, I think the most successful, most successful anime movie to happen in America. This is Dragon Ball Super was #1 for 2 weekends in a row. First off, there wasn't, it was fighting Bullet Train, which you're like, okay, and a bunch of other horror movies. So it wasn't exactly like a popular weekend, but that's big fucking news, guys. That means Crunchyroll made bank on this fucking thing, and it means they're bringing more movies to the U.S. Already, Gundam fans, go check out my Instagram. Yep, Gundam.
That hasn't really been an issue already. Every single time one of these movies comes out, it's usually making a bunch of bank, and we act like it's so surprising.
I think this is important because this is Dragon Ball Super, which usually for these events, even for Jujutsu Kaisen and for the new Mobile Suit Gundam movie that's coming out, it came out for 2 days. They do a special Fathom event, they pay for 2 nights and that's it. And they make it like a special event to go see it. Super, which we thought was the same way. I was so concerned, I bought tickets wicked in advance and then I got COVID and couldn't go see it in theaters. But I literally saw it on Saturday morning at 10:45 a.m., at a matinee. First off, saving money. Second off, you get the whole theater to yourself, so not too bad. And but it's like being at home, but not. Not a bad theater experience when you're going at a matinee. First Dragon Ball, you're like, hey, not bad. Yeah. But it's it was cool that I could still see it weeks later because it's still making money, and you're like, oh, great, that's awesome. I fucking love that, and I hope that keeps happening where they just keep the run going on these anime movies, because they really do just do them for events and let it go.
it kind of depends on how big the franchise is, because
Yes.
Broly and Resurrection F are also in theaters for more than just a few days.
But to be fair to Gundam, which is only getting 2 days, Mobile Suit Gundam outsells every other anime franchise. And I know that's because of the toys, but like, if we're looking at fucking charts, Dragon Ball's like 4th in the anime thing, and Mobile Suit Gundam is number 1. You know, like, I mean, Demon Slayer's fucking kicking some ass right now, but like, fucking Mobile Suit Gundam is a $1 billion thing, and it's kind of crazy that even though it's big, they're just kind of like, you get 2 days, you know, like same as everything else.
Because Americans don't care that much, Frank.
Yes, I know, but it sucks. They should care. But I am really excited by the news of Super, which this is the weirdest titled fucking Dragon Ball movie.
Super superhero. It's such a stupid, redundant title.
Why did we have to call it superhero? You know, like you could have called it like Orange Piccolo. You could have called it like any fucking thing else than fucking superheroes, and it wouldn't be a redundant title.
Superhero-ness of the film is very light.
Yeah, you can tell it's the heart of it that like that like these villains aren't like Gamma's not really a villain, and neither is Dr. Is it Hoba? Haba? How do you fucking say his name? Hedo. It's like they're not really villains, but like that's the thing about most Dragon Ball villains is they become not villains at the end, you know, like it's usually Goku kicks the shit out of them and they go, man, mad respect, bro, gonna join you for the rest of my life. Like,
yeah, basically. The only big exception tended to be mostly like the original like 13Z movies and the 4 Dragon Ball movies, the non-canon ones, where it's just like, well, it's a movie, so we got to just fucking kill these and never bring them up again. If you're popular enough, maybe we'll bring you back, like Cooler and Broly.
Yeah, right. They're like, hey, you'll get another movie. Don't worry. That's
why Broly ends with a non-kill, because it's just like, we just made this motherfucker canon. We're not getting rid of him now.
That's so true, though. They're just like, no. He's money, you know. Like you're like, no, you gotta have another Super Saiyan for them to play with. First off, my like kind of initial thoughts on this movie in general is that this is one dynamic movie. Fucking moves for an hour 40. It just fucking whoo the whole time, and I really enjoyed that. I also felt like the camera movements were extremely dynamic, and they've obviously fucking perfected the track around during an action fight with CG. Of course, you know, there's been beautiful 2D animated fucking tracks around them as they fight, but this felt like, you know, Dragon Ball has been trying to do that camera movement for a long time, where like the camera flies in and then spins around them in a track, and you can see the whole fight in circle. Dragon Ball's been trying to do that since Dragon Ball, you know, like they've been doing that kind of shot, but I feel like here they've almost perfected it because it moves at a great pace. You don't feel the movement. You don't feel like you're like, whoa, it's like very much in line with what's going on, you know? And I feel like that's an important thing to point out, because I feel like we've entered an age where I know a bunch of people, and when I was talking about the new Mobile Suit Gundam movie, people were like, I don't want to watch it because they're using CGI. And you're like, first off, do you know how hard it is to animate CGI? Pretty much the fucking same as 2D animation. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
like you're like, it's still hard. Like,
yes, there is a tactile charm. There is a tactile charm to hand-drawn animation, especially given, and it's also coming from an American perspective where we've kind of just all but abandoned theatrically, traditionally hand-drawn animated films, whereas like Japan still keeps the respect. So I think it's a bit of paranoia. It's just like, no, now Japan's starting to do it. They're not. No, things are going to change now.
But I think this. I keep bringing up the Mobile Suit, and I'm talking about Mobile Suit Gundam. I'm gonna mispronounce this. Crusoe's Dion's Island, and which was great. I loved it. Because it's like this small personal story, but because the CGI Gundams in it look fantastic the whole time, and I want to say here that this movie looks better than the entirety of all of Dragon Ball Super. I think this is the best looking fucking thing coming out of Dragon Ball Super. Like, this is, it looks
had Broly,
great.
so I disagree.
I mean, Broly's great. Broly's great. It looks great. I'm not hating on Broly. Of course, we've talked about this on the podcast before. We fucking love Broly. I think it's a dynamic movie. But I do think this might be
that, and I think
ahead.
Super ironed out a lot of its like production schedule issues, which is why it hampered the animation by the time you got to the Tournament of Power.
Yeah, Tournament of Power.
Like, it already got pretty polished by the time you got to the Tournament of Power in a lot of key scenes. But like early on, especially with the retelling shit, it was rough times.
Yes, and there's just like, it's one of those things that like they do these wide shots and they just don't animate faces, you know, like in the show, and that, I know that's just like cutting time. I get it. I read manga, you know, I fucking get it. You know, those guys are putting that out like crazy, same as anime, so they don't want to draw background faces. It makes sense. It's like a industry standard, you know, like, but it's one of those things that in Super you would always be like, yeah, 3 of those dudes don't have faces, you know, like, you're like, wait a fucking minute.
So as far as the CG is concerned, like, there was like rumblings for a while before the film was officially announced that it might be CG, which made sense because pretty much all of their key animators, especially for their big movie stuff, are all busy because they're on fucking One Piece right now. They're doing the Wano arc, which everything coming out of there looks great. They're just like, we're kind of over here right now, so you're on your own. Which is hilarious. It's like One Piece giveth and then taketh away, because most of the animators on Broly were people who had worked on the big One Piece movies, which is why it looked as good as it did.
It's like, I was saying that this is the #1 anime movie in America. One Piece, those One Piece movies blew it away in Japan. That's fucking, those are like 6 billion yen movies, you know, like they're not fucking around. No, that's their Avengers, guys. Like, you know, like you think about like midnight fucking premieres and going to see Avengers. Fucking One Piece movie fucking blows that out of the water.
We share that in common as far as just like Western audiences just being like, I don't care.
Yeah, they're like,
it's like Gundam, One Piece, and Dragon Quest. Stuff that like Japan takes very seriously that Americans are like, nah.
Well, also, I would say mascots, you know, like Japan has a mascot for every fucking town, and America's like, no, we have a state bird, you know, like they're like, I have a state flower. Like,
we have state birds and we have problematic statues. You did it.
Exactly. We did it, America. Good job. So good. But sorry, that's fucking funny.
So going into the film, it being CG, I was open to it. I was like cautiously optimistic about it because there have been a lot of great strides forward as far as CG in anime, both on the TV side and the film side. On the TV
because
side,
of course there's still bad ones every season, CGI wise. There's tons of shows that just look like terrible.
You have great studios that are like pushing CG exclusive shows forward, like Orange, who did Dorohedoro, and they're doing the new Trigun show, and they do Beastars, and they did Land of the Lustrous.
I don't care what you think about the redesign of Trigun.
Vash.
Yeah, that animation on that trailer looked incredible. Like, I don't care what you think about the redesign. If you think he looks like a hipster, whatever, I kind of agree with you. But the animation, come on. And it's not like a lot of these people, when they think of 3D animation, they think somebody's just like taking a fucking JPEG and like placing it on there and then making the JPEG just runs like a video game. That's not how this happens.
I was about to say, alternatively, it looks like an old video game cutscene. So it was one of those things where like, okay, on the TV side, we're starting to make strides forward. And then on the movie side, we've had some incredible CG work, like with Dragon Quest Your Story and that new Lupin movie.
Oh, but and I will also say you haven't seen Belle yet, which I think Belle was beautiful CGI-wise.
Yeah, I haven't seen Belle yet.
And Bubble, is it Bubble? Bubble, the one I watched on Netflix?
Yeah, you had said it looked great, even if it wasn't good.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just like parkour it was just parkour. It was like apocalyptic parkour, but it was also doing the Little Mermaid the whole time, which I thought was very strange too. I was like, I just watched Belle, which was doing Sleeping Beauty, and this one's doing Little Mermaid. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, they're all just doing Hans Christian Andersen stuff. I was like, what's going on this year with these movies? I was half expecting Dragon Ball to just whip out like fucking the Lion King or something, you know? Like you're like
maybe
what's
Japan's
going on
just
here?
sick of all these shitty live action remakes that Disney is doing. Just like, how about we retell these stories ourselves?
I don't know. Pinocchio came out. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard so many bad things.
I'm not gonna.
I was like, I don't even need that in my life. Sorry, Tom Hanks.
The only Pinocchio I need is that Del Toro one that's coming out. I don't give a fuck.
Yes. I don't give a fuck about anybody else's. Like, you're just like, no. That's the one I need.
But so going into it, it's just like, okay, it could work, but I also know Toei, so who knows? And going into it, it looked pretty consistent throughout. Like it looked better than I thought in most parts and worse than I thought in one particular section.
What section is that? Because I didn't. I was thinking that like I was watching the whole time and I was like, wow, this looks pretty great though most of the time.
It's none of like the key action sequences. It's basically nothing on Earth looks bad. It's all the stuff on Beerus's planet specifically that for some reason looked rougher than the rest.
Yeah, and so
maybe that's just a focus issue because Goku and Vegeta barely play a factor in this, which is actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one of my big notes in my notes here is that I felt like the end credit scene, like, you know, they have that mid-credit scene that they do. It kind of sums up their attitude for this movie. That like another Vegeta Goku fight would have been boring and the samey. And it's nice to use the rest of the cast and like do something different, you know, like I that's what I really appreciated about this movie. And maybe that's why we're having different opinions on it, because it's like, I of course love Goku and Vegeta. Of course, I love seeing them fight. But for me, I was like, finally a fucking Piccolo movie and get Gohan, you know, like
advertising basically just lied. Like all the marketing pushes that this is a Gohan movie. That's really not. This is Piccolo's movie, and I don't mind that. That's actually my favorite part about this movie is that it's Piccolo's movie.
Yes, I would say that that's probably the best part is that like he's the main character. We're just following him around. It is sort of weird because like this movie even more pushes that Goku's like the worst fucking dad alive, and then Gohan's not much better. You know? You're like, ah, yes, the chain of bad dads continues on, and Piccolo still has to pick up the pieces, you know? Like,
I do push back on like the bad dad thing because it is a little exaggerated, and you have to think of the circumstances.
He's training on another planet while all his kids are being kidnapped and fought against. I'm sorry, it's kind of a bad dad thing. He doesn't fucking sense that Cell Max activated. Like what? Like
no, he couldn't. He's too far away. They couldn't even sense when Frieza had come back.
I was expecting a scene though where they sensed that Gohan went beast mode. I think it's hilarious that they called it beast mode. By the way, it's 2022 and we call it beast mode. You know,
but it's also a thing of just like Gohan should be able to take care of his own shit. He's a grown man now.
Yes, that's the other thing I really liked about this movie is that it finally was kind of like, hey, everyone's been growing up this whole time and we should fucking use it, you know? Like, I really like that they explained also that, like, all the random growth spurts, they're like, yeah, us Saiyans don't grow much until we do. And you're just like, well, that explains all the weird fucking growing up you all do, you know?
It's a joke. It's a joke not only because Trunks and Goten should have had a growth spurt way long ago and they kept keeping them small, but it's also sort of a joke of like Goku in the original series where like he was just this tiny little boy until the very final arc where he just fucking shot up.
Which, okay, we've already talked about our love for Dragon Ball here, which first off, Deshaun was very, when I got into Dragon Ball, when I first got into Dragon Ball Z, he was like, okay, watch Kai, but then you go right back to Dragon Ball and watch all of that. And really, I really enjoy Dragon Ball. I like surprisingly so. It's one of those things that like I was like, oh, it doesn't have all the fights and stuff. And then I'm sitting there during the Red Ribbons Army arc, and I'm like, this may be amazing. Like, you're just like, this, you're like, this is incredible. And that's what I think is, there's already a ton of love for Dragon Ball in like the plot, the character, the fan service that's going on with just being like, here's things from Dragon Ball. But the number one reason you should go see this movie, And I mean this. Number one, you should go see it in theaters. Why you should see it when it drops on Funimation or Crunchyroll or whatever the fuck. That opening sequence where they basically remake the Red Ribbon Arm, we remake Dragon Ball in a fucking opening title sequence. That's just moving. It's fucking moving. And I'm sure the clip's already online. Fucking go watch it. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, you'll shit your pants because it's fucking incredible. It's just this like great summary of Dragon Ball, all these key fight scenes, done beautifully. Beautifully. And it just has that the thing about the tracking shot that has been in Dragon Ball the whole time is it's the cloud. Like like the Nimbus twists, and we follow Goku through the twists, and they're able to get that like following camera, but still keeping Goku the subject so perfectly in that fucking opening. And I really think that even if you don't like the rest of the movie, that's worth the price of admission.
Okay. I did like that opening sequence a lot, even if like the selfish side of me is just like, this looks so good. I wish the whole movie looked like this. Because as much as I like the CGI, I'm never gonna favor it over what I would want, over what I've had up until now. So it's just like, okay, but fine. And I think the few moments where they do incorporate 2D animation didn't feel jarring, which is nice.
No,
because they would like keep it to like screens and stuff like that for like the bios. Also, when we get to the Red Ribbon Army base and this fucking movie just casually canonized Android 21, I laughed.
I know. When they're just like, yep, that happened. And you're like, huh?
It did, and it didn't. So here's the thing. It's been implied, but never confirmed until Toriyama said it in like interviews and stuff like that Android 16 is based on Dr. Jiro's son.
Yes.
But that's never been in the actual material. It's like a fucking J.K. Rowling way after the fact. It's like, oh, thanks. That would have been nice to know 20 years ago.
You're like, yeah, Dumbledore's gay or something. I don't know.
And then when Fighters came out, it was implied that like the human that Android 21 was designed after was Jiro's wife. So that this movie basically confirms that. Not that Fighters happened, but like that human with that design existed.
Yeah. I want to say there's a little bit of Fighters love in this fucking movie. And I know Fighters is referencing all other Dragon Ball, but like there's some moments here where you're like, this could be a screen from Dragon Ball Fighters, which also says something how good that game fucking looks. But you're like, moments there, you're like, this could be a Fighters scene. Like there's like a moment where Cell like punches somebody wicked far away, and I was like, oh, that straight up could have been a screenshot, you know, like that straight up could have been a recording from the game. Like I was like, damn. But that says more about Fighters than anything else. The one of my favorite things about this movie is, I've already said it's dynamic, but it's kind of the style that's going on the whole time. And I got to give credit to literally, this is his first fucking feature film, Tetsuro Kodama, and he literally hasn't done much else, you know, like it's like he was a storyboard artist on Fire Emblem Mirage, and did a little anime show that I can't pronounce, but like he only did like 5 episodes of that, and then they give him fucking Dragon Ball. Like, it's one of those things where you're just like, damn, son, that's crazy. And I can see why. This man has fucking style oozing out of his fucking orifices for this movie. Even, like, the little pan scenes is what I point to, is because those are supposed to be fucking just little, like, Pan's strong now, you know? Like, and instead, they're these big, beautiful scenes where you, like, feel for Piccolo, where he's like, I've raised Goku, like, you know, like I fought Goku, I've raised Gohan, I'm now raising Pan, you know, like, but also it's like beautiful to see Pan, first off, be small, and second off, like just kind of flying around being herself, you know, like, and I really enjoyed those scenes when I'm thinking a lot of people probably didn't. I was watching those fan scenes. I'm like, I'm sure a lot of fans hated this, but I'm fucking loving this. Like,
I have no problem with either Z or Super's version of Pan. The only beef I have always had is with the GT characterization.
Really? You didn't like it in GT?
Pan's fucking annoying in GT.
I mean,
she's a fucking total lead weight.
I don't know. I felt I loved her from GT, so that's the reason why I'm always excited to like see her from the. But she gets better by the end. That's my only.
Yeah, a lot
excuse
of
to that.
fans do, and because people have really selective memory when it comes to Dragon Ball because they watched it like
Yeah.
once when they were
Once years
kids,
ago,
and
yeah.
then watch clips on YouTube for the rest of their lives. They tend to forget that Pan is not a GT character. She showed up at the end of Z.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, exactly. I will say that it's one of those things that the style from this director is so apparent and so great most of the time. It's like one of those things that a lot of directors would have been very much on their laurels about a lot of these shots, and they spend time filling them, making sure they're very full and vibrant, and I think it really works. I think that this is I know it's like Broly and this are definitely the best looking Dragon Ball movies in my opinion. And I know that's a fucking hard opinion. Now what is your opinion on that then? What is
As far as like just visually stunning, like fuck the story, a lot of the Boo arc non-canon movies look really good. Like Fusion Reborn, Wrath of the Dragon, even if Wrath of the Dragon is boring as fucking sin. Just look great. That was Yamamuro at his peak as far as like character design and animation was before he started like he's old now. He lost his touch by the time Battle of Gods and Resurrection F rolled around. It's just the thing that happens. That's why we had to refresh it with Broly. And then even beyond that, I would say Path to Power is one of the best looking Dragon Ball things, period. The Dragon Ball movie, the fourth one.
I feel that. That one is nice. That one, like, and it feels like, they're doing Dragon Ball and it looks beautiful. Like, can't be mad. Can't be mad at all. I will say there's some really deep fan service and love here for not just Dragon Ball. I already said that, but for everything else. I don't know if you laughed, but the minute fucking Cell Max came out and then he did the firing my laser face, I fucking cracked up. Like, he literally comes out and just firing my laser, and I was like, yes. Like,
also, someone on the production team watched Shin Godzilla because he did the fucking like body laser thing. It was like,
I want to point this out, and I know this is one of those things that like isn't really important, but I've noticed a lot in that I'm like taking Gundam photos, so I've noticed a lot in that a lot of effects in anime now are using pink lasers. It's like Shin Godzilla, this Mobile Suit Gundam, a lot of I also saw it in a couple other things, but they use a lot of pink lasers, and I think that's because it gives this great glow on the characters when you're using it, and it's striking, like instead of green, blue, yellow, like effects, the pink really it's taken over
sort of like a red hue. Like even Blaster Fire in Star Wars is mostly like anything red or red related.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why I'm really into like the pink. I'm like, cool, change it up. Like you're like, I like that. But that has nothing to do with anything. But
no, I didn't laugh. I was just more focused on how, to be honest, lame Cell Max is.
What? I thought he was
like.
Cool.
Here's the thing. Like a big kaiju fight, I'm all for. A big fucking giant Piccolo fighting giant monster fight, I'm all for. But like Cell Max has no personality. He's based on the worst cell design, which is semi-perfect.
No, wait. Here's something that I might have you beat on Dragon Ball wise. I played Dragon Ball Super World Heroes, which is the card game, and they have it on Switch, and I played a shit ton of it, and they have Cell Max in that. So it was one of those things where I've been playing as Cell Max, fighting against Cell Max in that game. I've played that game a lot, something like 60 hours or something like that. And, which I know is baby numbers, but for a game that no one's playing with me, I put a lot of hours. Yeah. It's not great. It's very quick time event card game, which you're just like, how do you play this in real life? You're like, I really want to know how this is played in real life, because playing on the fucking thing, it's rough. But I will say that they basically took the design from World Heroes and fucking brought him in, and he's not supposed to have a personality, like he's supposed to be the ultimate
big
android,
mindless monster. But here's the thing, that and in other places with this movie reminds me way too much of Z Movie 11, which is Bio Broly.
Yeah,
we're just like, take a beloved character and just turn them into sort of a mindless beast because Bio Warriors, the evil scientist stuff. And Bio Broly is the last fucking film you want to remind me of, whether that's intentional or not.
Yeah, I
Especially
feel you
since
there.
Cell, especially dub wise, is has one of the most memorable personalities.
I will say one of my things about that fight is that we have Cell Max, obviously one of the biggest threats to the fucking universe, all of a sudden popping up.
For now.
And he doesn't fucking suck anybody up. Like, I know he's supposed to be Max, so he doesn't have to fucking suck anybody up. But like, I was like, at least try to kill somebody in this fight. Like, let's put some fucking harm on somebody.
To be honest, that's what I thought what the Gammas were for. You got two androids sitting right there. I thought they were there to be absorbed.
I agree. I was like, why did we have to do the hero death for 2 when we could have just had him get sucked up by? And then they're like, oh shit, it's Cell Max now with Gamma's powers, and it would have given him a personality of Gamma. You know, like that's kind of the thing.
It also would have fulfilled like a meme that's been around since Resurrection F came out. After Resurrection F came out and we had Golden Frieza as a thing, you're just like, okay, when's Platinum Cell? We gotta get Platinum Cell. And
well, now we have Frieza Black.
We had Cell Max, and the Gammas do have like a silvery color to their skin.
Yeah,
so I was like, oh boy, is he about to absorb these two and we get Platinum Cell confirmed?
That would have been great. That would have been awesome. Which, by the way, I know that it's a joke that Piccolo calls himself Orange Piccolo there, but it is cool to see like Gold Piccolo in an animation, you know, because that's obviously been in games and other things, and you're kind of like, and in World Heroes again, and you're kind of like, you're like, you're like, I would love to see it. So I was really happy about that little bit, but I'm with you that like, obviously Cell Max wasn't the real like fight here. Like, I get that the Gamma fights were really what they were like concentrating on, and the Cell was just this big bad to bring out at the end. But it's like, I'm kind of with you that it was a fun fight, but it could have gone further, and I don't know why it didn't. You know, like that would be my one like kind of criticism of this movie is that fight. So.
And it's also the third time in the row we've brought back another villain as like a big threat. So you're like, all right. Except when a Resurrection F did it, it's not like Frieza lost his personality.
Yeah.
And when we did it with Broly, we pretty much just reinvented the character.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, but what about Cell? He's a big monster.
I did enjoy the Gammas. They seem very disposable, but you're kind of like, yay. You know, like they're like, yeah, they're fun and they're nice guys, you know, like it's one of those things that you're like, okay, like those are my 2 big criticisms of this movie is that the villains, and this happens with all of Dragon Ball. I mean, not all of Dragon Ball, because Boo and Cell have such teeth, you know, like, and that's my problem is that like we come to this movie and you feel like it has a lot of teeth and then it doesn't at all at the end, you know, like
and that's sort of an issue throughout Super as well, where like the only decent villain in Super is like Black and Zamasu.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like before that you have like Hit, who's not necessarily a villain, but he's just the proverbial antagonist of that arc, and you like Hit, but for different reasons as an anti-hero. And then Jiren is the most fucking boring villain in the entire franchise.
Yep. It's like, it was funny that they even brought him up here where they were like, I gotta work on meditating so I can be like Jiren. And you're like, cool. It was definitely one of those moments where you're like, sure. Yeah, Super's still happening. Okay. You know, like is what that felt like, where it was just like, no, show's not over. We're still doing it. You know, like don't worry.
The manga's still been going on since it went off the air, and we've had 2 major arcs that the anime hasn't adapted yet.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not gonna happen. It's just kind of when I'm saying the love for Dragon Ball in this movie, it's more for Z and Dragon Ball. Super's very like, yeah, that's happening. Like,
yeah, I will say this, like Super in general from the start has been really good about bringing things back that Toriyama would always just fucking forget about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, remember the demon containment wave? We could use that. It's just like, oh yeah, that is a thing. Piccolo would also stretch his arms and limbs and like grow and stuff like that.
Oh my god. And bringing up King Piccolo so much.
Also with thing. You got the Z anime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really, it's like one of those things that when you watch Z first, you basically don't understand that how big of a villain Piccolo was. You know, like you basically just see him as a friend when you watch Z first, which is how most American audiences do it. But then if you go back and you watch it, you're like, Piccolo's the big bad? You're like, what? Hold on. Like you're like, wait a minute. And I really love that like this brought it up, you know, because like a lot of Z and Super are very much like, you know, like they're like the way they treat most of Dragon Ball characters.
And that's mostly like, Toriyama just being like, I am overworked and my back hurts and I just need to get these chapters done. So I can't, so forgive me if I forget some of these key details.
Exactly. You're like, wait a minute. I do love that this was a Piccolo movie. First off, just because I love Piccolo. I love that they like brought up everything. And then even with the whole final fight, it was very much like, here's Piccolo's best moves all done big, you know, like, and then the final move of the entire thing, Gohan actually using Piccolo's move instead of his dad's move is first off another indicator that how bad of a dad Goku is. But second off,
enough of the Goku bad dad stuff because I'm gonna rant if you don't shut up about it.
I know, I'm sorry.
Like, yes, I too have seen the memes. I too have fucking watched Dragon Ball Z abridged enough with the bad dad stuff. Like, it is wholly fucking exaggerated.
Okay, well then, my only real argument to that then is who really raised Gohan. You know, like who really raised him? Piccolo. You know, like who fucking was there the whole time? Who trained him? That's the reason why he's doing that move at the end.
I would argue his mother.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, fair. Fair enough.
Only there to really train him. And here's the thing. We talk about the absentee father thing. Okay, so now you got me going. Let's actually look at the fucking timeline of Z. We introduce Gohan when Raditz shows up.
Yes.
Gohan is kidnapped. Goku and Piccolo team up to fight Raditz. Goku ends up dying in the fight. So, yeah, he's gone. Well, he's dead. It's kind of out of his control.
Dead.
Comes back. The first thing he needs to deal with when he comes back is, oh shit, they're on Namek, and I have to clean up this mess and deal with that. Just like, well, I need to let them escape, so I might as well stay so they can escape and Frieza won't be on them. And they think he dies. Then he survives. It's like, well, I can't get back to Earth because I'm kind of far away right now. And instant transmission isn't a thing yet. So let me head back. Okay, I'm heading back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Everything's going to be fine. Oh, fuck, the androids are here. It's less that, like, I'm abandoning my kid because I actively don't want to spend time with it. It's just like, I don't have time. Every time I'm around, these fucking enemies come and we have to deal with that. Which is why at the end of the Cell games, he's like, I'm dead now. Maybe I should just stay dead because I feel like these threats are totally attracted to me, and I feel like it would be better off for all of you if I wasn't around for you guys not to deal with it.
Yeah, it's
which
kind
he's
of
right about because there's like a 10-year time skip where nothing happens.
I mean, it's also one of those things that they're doing the Dark Knight Rises fucking ending, but well, you know, where they're just like, I'm obviously what's causing this problem, you know, even if I was the Band-Aid at first, you know, like, so let me lay low, you know, like, which is cool. Like,
name one of these like circumstances in which in which it's like in Goku's control to really be around.
Yes. We'll stop your rant there. Don't worry. Yeah. I don't actually believe Goku's a bad dad. It's just he's not there. You know?
It's like it's part of like the meme, and I get that, but I would see things where like I would see a tier list of bad dads.
Which they put him with like Homer Simpson, and you're like, he literally abuses his kids.
I saw one where he was in the same fucking tier list as Butterscotch Horseman. Like BoJack Horseman's abusive dad.
Like,
it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
No. It's like he maybe hits Gohan once and it's for a thing, you know? Same as Vegeta hitting Trunks, you know? Like, it's one of the, it's like, it's always when it's like a stopping your kid from doing something stupid thing, you know? It's never like malicious. By
the time you get to like Z and like Super and beyond, the Gohan's a grown-ass man now by now.
Yeah.
So not much we could do on that front. And plus, at the end of the day, like Goku is a big mountain man.
Yes,
who
exactly.
just wants to eat and fight.
I do really love that they like kind of deal with Gohan here in this whole movie. It's very much like, okay, he was the big thing of the Cell arc, and we kind
Okay.
of, we played him down, because obviously Goku's the main character, like we're like, hey, when really the end of Cell was supposed to be the end of the show, and it was like
More or less, yeah.
a pass on of the torch, like it was very much Force Awakens done well.
That's why the Cell arc has like a sense of finality to it so much.
Yes.
That's why, like, oh, we're bringing back the Red Ribbon Army. So, like, we're tying it back to the OG Dragon Ball to, like, bring things full circle.
Yeah.
We're finally paying off how powerful Gohan can be because we've been hinting at that since Raditz showed up. Just like, oh, we have, like, a future time traveler. So we see, like, what Vegeta will end up as, like, actually domesticated and actually living on Earth as an ally. Just, like, everything feels so final about the Cell arc.
Right.
Which is part of the reason why people rub up against Boo a little bit.
Yeah, but Boo's for me, Boo's one of the best villains. It's peak Toriyama too, because it's like he loves that comedy with his like drama, like he wants that, like he always wanted a funny villain, like it's like he's always really wanted, and Boo is like him unleashed with that funny villain, like really
I love the Boo arc. Like, its best aspect could be argued as its worst. It's the point where Toriyama had little to no editorial oversight at that point because Dragon Ball was such a big money maker that he was just like, I'm just gonna fucking do whatever I want. And for better or worse, that's the whole Boo arc. That arc is fucking wild when you actually map it out point to point to point.
Yes, it's crazy. I remember the first time I was watching it and I was like, this is fucking nuts. Like, the show was crazy before. This is nuts, like absolutely bonkers if you like track it down what's happening on screen. You're like, what the fuck? But it's very much him, like that's what I always loved about it, is that like he's always a big comedy guy, and that's what I also loved about this movie, is it felt like it had his sense of humor for a lot of like the physical humor stuff going on. Like I felt like that was very much going on. Even Dr. Hedo felt very much like an Akira Toriyama thing, where it was like he's goofy, but obviously he's still a good guy and wants to do it right. Like it's like very felt right.
Yeah, I also like that there was a subversion on Dr. Hedo, that he's not just like, I'm the descendant of Dr. Gero and I want revenge. He's just like, look, I'm brilliant and I like to build stuff. I just don't have the funding to do so. I don't give a fuck about what Dr. Gero did. In fact, his presence and his reputation was actually bad for me growing up.
Yeah, I also don't know why it's not a meme yet. Him getting shot, falling over, and then shot twice. That shit was so damn funny. I know it's supposed to be serious, but I died laughing. Him just face down the good. Like,
the double tap made everyone in my theater laugh.
It's like absolutely ridiculous. It's like, he's not dead because he's been saying it the whole movie that he could stop a bullet with his skin. But you're like, you're like that was absolutely ridiculous, which felt very him.
But pivoting back to Gohan, I don't mind that we focus on the like, okay, Gohan, you're kind of a has-been.
Yes.
You and fucking Rock Lee and Naruto, I swear to God. They all love you for this one goddamn moment.
Yes, but I mean, great moment.
In Gohan's case, much more so.
Yes, much more so. I also, it's also been a thing in the storyline, in Super. It's like they train him back up. They try to get him out there. He's having problems, trying to get back into that fighting instinct. And Goku's kind of like, what the fuck?
But it's also one of those things where like, we've gone through this 3 fucking times. We did it in the Boo arc. We did it in Super. It's just like, you need to train because what if the threats come and Goku's not around? You're a strong warrior. You need to step it up. Just like, okay, I'm going to finally step it up for the Tournament of Power, and then we're just going to repeat this again once this movie comes out.
I know, but I kind of really like this one because it was it's very much Piccolo being like, no, fuck this. I'm going to do Goku's arc on Gohan, and it's going to work, and then it did. Like he's like I'll just quickly fake kidnapping Pan, so just the same as happened to Goku.
Yeah, I did also like
know,
that Pan was actually never in any actual danger, and they
Yes.
didn't put her in a damsel role, so he just kind of played it up.
Yeah, I like that too. I was like, thank God. It wasn't just like, help me. It was like her laughing along and like working with Piccolo
Yeah,
on this.
exactly.
Like that was fun. Like that was, I know a lot of people won't like that again. Like, but
Yeah, I didn't mind any of like I guess you would call like the quieter moments, or like the slice of life stuff, the more domestic moments. Like that was actually some of the more charming aspects of the movie.
Yeah,
I feel like
I liked that Gohan was a biologist and he was really into an ant that literally goes Super Saiyan. Like you're like, damn. But they should also look into that more. I'm like, are the Super Saiyans being on Earth changing the biology of the fucking planet?
Ecosystem?
Like, you're like, that's not good, guys. You should probably look into that. Like, I was like, damn. I almost couldn't believe.
This is also the same like world where Roshi blew up the moon and it had no effect on the Earth at all. Whereas, like, if we got rid of the moon, we'd have some fucking problems.
Have a little bit of an issue there, yeah. It's true. There's dinosaurs everywhere and fucking.
Yeah, there's dinosaurs and there's like
giant fish.
There's like a giant furry who's like the mayor of the world. You're like, whatever. It's
whatever you guys want. Whatever you're up to. I am kind of sad that they didn't do more with Mr. Satan here. Like that. Like the whole plot was like. That really the Dragon Ball guys were all like an evil organization. I was kind of hoping for this scene where like Mr. Satan's hanging around and then they kick his ass, just like jump him and beat his ass, like I was kind of hoping for one of those.
The whole conspiracy bit was one of the more interesting bits in the film because it's just like, what do civilians think about the people who aren't in the know? What the fuck do they think about all this crazy stuff that goes down? And like the conspiracy that they formed around it was actually super funny because it's just like, yeah, I guess you would think that. Yeah, right. Well, they've brought it up several times that like humanity would not be okay with them being aliens, and they kind of just keep being like, no, we're not aliens. Like don't worry about it. We fly, but don't fucking think about it. Yeah. Also, there's this green guy. Don't fucking look at him. And you're just like, wait a minute. But I will say one of my favorite parts about that, like the whole plot there, is it shows off Bulma's genius. It's like this guy genius in one shot. Yeah, a few shots. They were definitely like, this is a movie. We gotta sell some figurines of Bulma after this. It's like really funny because first off, it shows that Bulma's kind of been like, and I know we see it as like Goku's been gathering all these people to him, but if you really think about it, Bulma's been like keeping them financed and okay and living, like she's the one taking care of them all and funding everything and then using the research for her financial gain. But like you're like whatever. But like it really shows off is like genius active
here,
character development compared to like the bratty teenager we knew in the OG show.
Exactly. But then she's still Bulma, like where it's like she's
still vain as shit.
Which is like I really love that the two wishes thing, because that shit was so damn funny to me. Because you're just like, first off, it's the animators being like, of course she still looks like this even though everyone else is old. Like they're being like, no, we're not gonna do an old Bulma ever. No. Like we're gonna fix that.
I guess she has to like stop after a while, because by the time we get to End of Z, which like all of Super is still in that like gap.
Yes.
Between like Kid Buu dead and before we meet Oob in the tournament. Yes. So it's still in like that period of like a few years. Wait, is it
Oob? I thought Oob was brought up during the Tournament of Power arc. Am I wrong?
He's brought up, but we still haven't met him.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what I was like.
Goku mentioned.
I remember being
Goku mentions that like the reincarnation of Buu has like been born and that he's around, but they actually haven't like confronted him yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you're like, okay.
They're very cagey about like trying to go beyond like real End of Z where the manga was done. Yeah, they're just like, let's just fit everything into like this little gap.
I think that's because GT didn't do as well, so they're kind of like, we're gonna be very cautious about this.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that we talk about GT because as far as like Eastern audiences are concerned, GT's presence has never really left the public consciousness because they take all the stuff they like about it and they put it in all the fucking merch and they put it on the games. Like, as far as a kid growing up is concerned, maybe they've never seen GT, but they play fucking Heroes and they're just like, ooh, I like Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah, right. You're like, hey, I like that. I also love that, like, we kind of get. I know Beast Mode is its own thing, and it's sort of like this combination of several things, but it felt very GT, where we were like going beyond Super Saiyan, you know, like it's like, hey.
I mean, so did like the great ape power thing in
Yes.
Broly did. Just
Yes.
like, oh, it's like he's using the powers of a great ape, but he's maintaining his human form. It's like, I sound a lot like Super Saiyan 4.
Exactly. You're like, wait a minute. I did love. I think we've already said that. I love Beast Mode here. First off, Gohan looks fucking sick. The silver hair looks awesome. He's badass as fuck when he does that. I love him just stopping Cell, which I've been waiting for all movie, by the way. Somebody just to stop each other like that. I was like, sick.
I'm not as hot on that whole bit. Like
no?
the special beam cannon is cool, and the callbacks and like just seeing Gohan powerful is cool. But the like, hey, remember Super Saiyan 2 transformation, guys? You remember? He's like, yeah, I fucking remember. And
which, to be fair, I liked it because we went back to like when they transform, it affects the environment, you know, because it's like Goku's gotten so trained that he's just like poosh, and he's fucking Super Saiyan, you know.
But the fucking white hair and the red eyes, I've seen so much bad fan art of that.
Yes. Yes, I will say it's very much what the fans would have thought of in their head.
It reminds me of every bad DeviantArt I saw throughout like the early 2000s of just like white hair, red eyes, Super Saiyan 5 confirmed, guys.
Super Saiyan 96, and it's just like
to the point where there was even a fucking joke about it, like after the Tournament of Power, where people would just change Gohan's hair white. And that would be the new transformation. It was a joke. It was a meme that was in the community. It was called Gohan Blanco.
Blanco.
So when this fucking came out and he actually had white hair, the immediate fucking joke was like, guys, Blanco confirmed. We did it.
we did it, boys. It's happening.
So it's just like, nah. And it's also the hair's too big.
Yeah, but that's kind of
the initial reveal. It looks just like proportions, like Super Saiyan 2. But the way it looks in CG, the moment you get a profile shot, it's laughable.
It is long. But that's like kind of the thing about four too. Super Saiyan 4, it's like long, you know. Shit starts to get long in 3, you know, like Super Saiyan 3 goes down to his fucking legs.
It's more about filling out the hair in other places.
Yeah. It's 3 that I'm more thinking of than the like hair going down to the fucking legs.
Yeah,
like,
but 3 also goes down. It's not just fucking also, I love 3's design. Don't disrespect Super Saiyan.
I'm not disrespecting. I'm just saying, like, that's the thing. So one of my favorite parts of this movie, and I'm sure it was one of your favorite parts too, was Gamma using the onomatopoeias like effects during the fight with.
That was cute.
I almost missed it when they kind of like threw the joke aside. They were like, yeah, it's holograms, fuck it, and they left it beside. I was kind of like, now bring that back. That was dope as shit. You know, like you're like, that was the part that I felt was a very direct, first off to the manga, but then also to fighters, you know, like where it's like, this is how the manga looks, but also because of that, fighters looks like this.
And
you
it
know, like,
plays into like the very loose superhero theme. Like this really shouldn't have just been called superhero. Here's the thing. If you were going to call a film superhero as a subtitle, I expected the Gammas to play much more of a bigger role in the plot.
Also, why did we not bring... okay, this drove me nuts. And I know this is so nitpicky and weird. But the movie's called Superhero. It's about Gohan. And we never fucking reference him being a superhero during Z.
Yeah, that was my issue. That was my whole thing. And that's
I was like, what? He didn't fucking suit up in the suit? Like, I was expecting that, you know?
To be honest, like... when I heard about this movie back when it was actually being marketed as a Gohan movie, which it just isn't, it's Piccolo's movie.
Piccolo's movie.
That's kind of the thing. But when it was being marketed, I'm like, okay, it's called Superhero and it's about Gohan. What I kind of expected was almost maybe like a feature-length equivalent to those 2 episodes that we got in Super, where they're making like a Great Saiyaman movie and Gohan has to intervene to like protect his family. I was expecting something on like that tone. And I'm cool with it because unlike most of, especially American fans, like I have no issue with the Great Saiyaman.
Yeah,
like
I love it.
I get it. It's more like a cultural disconnect, or it's just like, this is how superheroes are portrayed over there.
Yes.
It's making fun of like Sentai and Tokusatsu and stuff like that.
Exactly. And, but that is it's like I have the the gripes where I'm like, oh, that doesn't have teeth, but for some reason that sticks out in my mind.
No,
It's just a
that
waste
one
of
really
potential.
stuck in my craw. It's like that and Cell not absorbing the gammas. It's just like these two really big missed opportunities that just fucking stick out.
Yeah, and I know that sounds like fan bullshit where you're like, oh, I had it in my mind differently. It feels like it was heading that way. That's my problem, is it feels like this is an obvious connection and they didn't make those connections, like, and you're kind of like, what? Like, why? Like, what the fuck?
So, like, Gohan Blanco, design-wise, I wasn't crazy about, but I did like Orange Piccolo.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gold Piccolo. It's Gold Piccolo, but like Orange Piccolo. Yeah, he calls it. When he said Orange Piccolo, I laughed too. Like there was several moments I laughed at this movie though.
Anything's fucking better than
a huge
Super Saiyan God
recommendation.
Super Saiyan, so I'm fine.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
As a name.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. I do love Piccolo just fucking hulking out. Like just straight up getting huger, much bigger. I love his transformation scene that he's like falling off and they're like a little bit more and then he's like, like you're just like, damn, yeah, let's go. Like,
yeah, it's cool because we also like never give transformations to anyone but the Saiyans anymore. So it's just like finally give the other characters something cool. It actually kind of like sparked a little bit of imagination within the fandom after a while when the movie first came out, because they were thinking, it's like, what else could we do with the other characters to actually maybe bring them back into the fold? Just like, what if Roshi actually taught Krillin how to do like the big buff boy like max power thing?
Yes,
exactly. Just like stuff like that that's already pre-established that we could just learn and just do.
I did die at at Bulma being like, I brought the Earth's mightiest heroes and Krillin, like, and you're just like, yeah. But then Krillin, I mean, give credit to the boy. He used his normal moves that he learned from Dragon Ball, which first off was another reason why I loved that ending. Was I was like, cool, Krillin gets to do his thing, same as he used to do, like, and it
say this.
took down Cell Max, like, where you're like, hell yeah, bro, Krillin still got it. Like,
well, it is disappointing that we didn't get to see
Gotenks. Also as much as I love Krillin, I do wish they would power up like Yamcha as a redemption, like, it's like, I love Krillin, but like Yamcha would be a fun, like, yeah, let's fucking bring him back and power him up wicked, like
just for the joke.
Joke.
And as much as I would have liked to have seen a teenage Gotenks, I
Yes.
did appreciate that they because even though they did the gag where it's just like, oh, they fucked it up, he's fat Gotenks, that they actually still kept him in the fight.
Yes.
Instead of just being like, well, we fucked up, we're just gonna go over here and try and wait out the clock so we can fuse again.
I do like that. I also I felt like that was a lot of love, like, for the show and everything. That was like one of those things that you expected something badass to happen and then it didn't, which felt like very Akira Toriyama, like, where you're like, here's something badass and it's not, like, and but I also, he's so damn funny as fat Gotenks, like, you're just like, all right, go wild, bro. Like, but I had a lot of fun with this movie. Is it the best movie ever? No. But is it fun? Is it a good watch? Yes. Should you see it in theaters? I would recommend.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I had fun. Broly, I enjoyed Broly more. I enjoyed Battle of Gods more. But as far as like the recent, like, more canon movies, I probably liked it more than Resurrection F.
Yeah.
Like, Resurrection F is very like stale the more you like go back to it. But it was fun. It was cute. And I think post Broly, because that was like a big event. That was the 20th Dragon Ball movie. That was them trying to refresh the entire look with the character design and bring in new animators for like their A team.
Like, I love them in the jackets.
Like, Broly was an event.
Goes hard.
And Superhero as a film, I think, made sense to do a much more lower key story after that. Like, it was the right move.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this, I think it slots in perfectly, like, is really it. Is that we don't have Super coming out at the moment. So it's kind of this perfect, like, we don't have Super right now. This is still Super, like, and you're like, cool, thanks. You're like,
my audiences were like,
the
audience I went with, just gathering, like, the way people were talking about it after we came out was just like two extremes, because we live in the world of binaries where it's just like, it was amazing, it was garbage, and nothing in between.
No, I've also heard that. I will say, I kept saying stuff about, like, people will be against Pan, but because obvious people are sexist, but like. there's a lot of fans that did not like this. Like, they straight up did not understand. I literally saw several fans being like, yo, there wasn't enough Goku and Vegeta in this. And you're like, watch everything else then. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Okay, you're like
I heard one person, there was one person who's just like, wow, that might have been my favorite Dragon Ball movie. And
that's
then
what
the person
I'm thinking.
and then there was a person a few rows down who's just like, man, I could have just watched that at home.
Yeah. See, that's how I feel about this, is that I felt like this had style. This was dynamic. It fucking moved. You don't have a lot of Dragon Ball movies just fucking halt, you know, like before the fight, or like they do a lot of things where like the plot will just fucking stop and they'll do a couple things and then the plot picks up again. This felt like we were just fucking moving, you know, like everything felt important. And it moved.
And I do think a large swath of the fan base are just not going to accept a CG Dragon Ball movie.
Yeah.
So like they were going to be like, no, it's CG. I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And in a world where we're getting big movies on Disney Plus and Paramount, I'm sure a lot of people are like, why wasn't this just a straight Crunchyroll release? You know, like,
and also as far as like production wise and like the crossover between Toei's different properties, that's also something that One Piece had done already. Like there's already a CG One Piece movies that they did a few years ago. So it was sort of inevitable, and it was something that I kind of wanted to toy around with for a bit.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I really don't. I know a lot of people will watch this and be like, I do. And that's totally fine. If you do mind it, that's okay. But you should know that if in your head you're like, it's much easier, it's cheaper, it's not. It's just not. Like, it's actually not cheaper. Like, I know what it does is it saves time that these people can do more, you know, like, but it definitely isn't cheaper or easier to do. It's just it's faster at moments, you know, like but it's not like, guys, if you're thinking they're like, oh, this is cheap and it's easy to do, you know nothing about animation and you should shut the fuck up. Because like it's like they put a lot of love and effort into making these things look good.
I've said this a million times whenever animation comes up, but if your criticism of anything animated is budget, then you know nothing about animation.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. That's one of my big things. That's becoming a real big pet peeve of mine. It's like that, and when people say the script was bad when they've seen a movie they didn't like, it's just like, did you read the script?
Yeah,
you have that on hand?
You're like, you can say dialogue's bad. Did you read the script yourself?
The plot was bad. People just use it as a shorthand for like, I didn't like the dialogue, I didn't like the plot. Just like, well, then just say that, because you have no idea what changes from those pages to what we ended up seeing.
Exactly. I think it's obvious, always a different experience when you're reading the script. You know, like, I mean, other than, of course, my boy Parasite up here, that fucking translates like a motherfucker.
Yeah,
but
and it's also easier to judge that with like TV stuff, because like script to TV is usually also a lot closer. But even then, there's a lot of fucking stuff that happens. So we're like, well, we got to change it.
Yeah, exactly. And
we don't have this location
there's
anymore.
Like Neil Gaiman's scripts for even just TV, it's almost dreamlike when you're reading these scripts. It's not a normal script. It's not like exterior night. It's like very much a dream. Like, you feel like you're moving through a dream state when you're reading his scripts, you know, like, and it's a very different style than even Alan Moore or Frank Miller, Frank Miller's like very much like, I will say some script, but I'm gonna fucking draw it, so fuck you. You know, like, he was.
Whereas, like, you read an Alan Moore script, and that shit is like detailed and meticulous.
He's like he's describing every bit of the frame, and if you do it wrong, he's gonna be fucking pissed. You know, like, is what Alan Moore's scripts feel like. You're just like, fuck, dude. Like, which I do recommend checking out his Swamp Thing volumes, because they always have a little bit of the script at the end, and you'll be like sitting there like, holy shit. Like, you'll just read those scripts and you'll be like, damn. But
like, so much changes between script to screen that you can't judge the script. A good example I like to bring up is American Beauty as a film.
Yes.
That movie completely changed in the edit.
Yeah.
That movie was supposed to end with the two teenagers being blamed for Kevin Spacey's character's death.
Oh, wow. You're
like, it was written that way. It was shot that way. And then once they got to the editing process, it's just like, we've kind of made a completely different beast here, and we need to edit for that. So it completely changed.
Yeah, exactly. And of course,
So, but
everyone's
if you-
favorite, Star Wars, is a huge
Yeah,
in the
but if you
edit
hated that,
save.
But if you hated that, it's just like, oh, the script was bad. I hated the way it ended. It's like, well, that wasn't in the script.
Yeah, you're like, so. You're like, that's the shooting script if you want to be serious. But even there's no script, like, at that point, you know? Like, because they're just not doing it, you know? Like, so it's an edit thing, you know? Like,
yeah.
But
that and a lot of shooting scripts, as far as, like, the ones that are officially published, tend to just be, like, transcripts of what you've already seen.
Of what you've already seen. I feel that. Basically, I really enjoyed this movie. I can see why some people are pissed. I can see why some people won't like this. I really can. I'm not an overly fanning about this, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where I was like, if you don't like this, you're dumb as shit. Like, I understand why you wouldn't like this. Did I like it? Yes. Did I have a lot of fun? Yes. Did I laugh and cheer multiple times? Yes. I would say that's the fun of this, you know, like
and this is also the first Dragon Ball film you've seen in theaters.
Yes. Yeah, I will say that's probably why I also enjoyed it a lot. Like,
yeah, there's also a novelty there.
Yeah, it's kind of like you know, one of my favorite things to do is support the new Godzilla movie when it comes to, you know, like whenever a new Godzilla movie comes to American theaters. It's like I always try to support because I want more, you know, like, and of course, guys, that's all you could do. You can only vote with your fucking wallet. And it's one of those things that seeing Godzilla in theaters is a fucking experience, you know, like it's the way it was meant to be seen. I love Godzilla. It's never the same on a small screen, you know, like it's just never the same.
Disaster
it's meant
movies
to be.
Like that, like it's a big movie. It needs a big screen for your big movie. Like I still think of like Godzilla 2014 as like one of the most fun theater experiences I ever had. And then like King of the Monsters also had that.
Right, I saw King of the Monsters in IMAX, and I was cheering, you know, like the whole time. I was like, "This is amazing," you know, like. But that's because it was destroying Boston while I was seeing a movie in Boston. I was like, "Fuck yeah, like, fucking love this." But I overall, guys, I think this is worth seeing. I think Dragon Ball was fun to see in theaters. I don't know if it will. I feel like we'll get a lot more negative reviews when it comes out in theaters, kind of you know, on streaming services. Kind of like how I love that Thor: Love and Thunder kind of has gotten that beat down now, now that's on streaming services. It went from being like, wow, that was fun, to I've seen a couple people, which first off, somebody called Watiti a fucking idiot, which I was like, first off, you could never direct JoJo's Rabbit, so shut the fuck up. You know, like it's like I've seen a lot of people hate on him for Thor: Love and Thunder and Thor 3, and you're kind of like,
well,
weird Avengers fanboys, you know, like
you already know that like I wasn't crazy about Love and Thunder when we did a review on it, and it's only gotten a little worse.
No,
since
it's got. I think so too. It's just one of those things that it's not a very good rewatch. It's very rough in comparison when you rewatch. Really, it's and I even tweeted about it. Their fix for the head scene, which I know this is going way off topic. That fix for the head scene in Thor: Love and Thunder is not good. It still doesn't look good. You can't fix how ugly that fucking looks. You know, you literally have to change the effect. That looks terrible.
Maybe stop treating your VFX artists like shit, especially since you build your entire fucking enterprise on special effects.
Yes, exactly. And it's one of those things that they're not handling the CGI in-house anymore, and then they're complaining about the CGI, and you're kind of like, you're like, well, if you're not having full control over it, you know, like you're paying somebody to do it. I don't get it. You know, like you're like, damn, guys. It's kind of one of those things where you're like, Pixar's still looking good. It's all your Marvel side that's falling apart because you're not paying your animators, you know, like, or having animators in house.
Speaking of Pixar, did you see that Wally's getting a Criterion Collection copy?
That is a beautiful cover, by the way. I was like,
yeah, it's nice.
Which, first off, Wall-E is the one that deserves a Criterion Collection out of all the Pixar
I would say
movies.
so. Even if I am one of those people who really likes the first half of it, and then the second half is like, eh.
Yeah. You're still like, It's a beautiful film.
I just want a dystopian robot love story on a ruined Earth.
Yeah.
It's like, we're the last things left on this planet, and yet we still love each other. I didn't need like the ham-fisted, like, look at us, we're all fat and we drink our meals. Or like, okay.
All right. But guys, I'm pretty sure anything else you want to say about Dragon Ball Super Superheroes?
No, I liked it fine. It would be one of those ones that maybe I'll warm to it a little more as it goes on, but I already like it. But I don't like it as much as Broly. I don't like it as much as Battle of Gods. I don't like it as much as like Fusion Reborn or the 2 TV specials with Bardock and History of Trunks. Like there's just more stuff that I like more than this.
Yeah,
but
understandable.
As I said, I think it was the right move to go for a film like this after Broly.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
And also,
I love Piccolo and Gohan, so that's my fucking thing about this. Is I was like,
as far as like, I wouldn't be against if you did another CG film, but I also wouldn't mind if this was the only CG film either.
I'm okay with it. I think it's the fucking future. I think that anime movies are just gonna, the CGI will just keep getting better, and we need to keep pushing it. You know, like, is basically it. I think that the CGI, of course, is already looking a lot better. I think people, when they're complaining about CGI, they're thinking of early 2000s animes, you know, like even Zoids, you know, like, or some of the like even Beast Wars. When they think of CGI, they think of that. They don't think of Lupin. They don't think of Bell. They don't think of this, you know, like that's not, or Mobile Suit Gundam, you know, like they're not thinking of those things. They're thinking of Beast Wars.
You leave Beast Wars alone and you leave Reboot alone. They were the first ones to the party. You can't blame them for it.
Yes, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying it's the Beast Wars has some incredible frames is all I'll say. And sometimes you just pause that show and you're like, ho. You're like, whoa, hey, that's a rough frame you got there, guys. Like, I always feel bad for the animators though in those early years, because they must have been like, wow, I spent so much work on this and it still looks like ass, you know? Like,
Reboot and Beast Wars were like the first 2 fully CG animated shows. Like, they were the first ones to just kind of like go for it and shit on them now.
Or what was the guy? Cubics. Oh, I fucking loved Cubics as a kid. But that was a full CGI show and that looked rough as shit too. But besides the point, I really enjoyed this movie. Thank you guys for checking out the Warp Shelf podcast. Thank you for listening in. If you want us to review more anime movies, comment down below, just anime. You don't have to say anything else. You just ANIME. That's it. We'll fucking cover more anime. But like, if that's all you have to type in the comments down below on YouTube or anywhere else, which is where you can find our beautiful faces. You can watch us on YouTube, but you can also listen to us on any podcast platform. If you're like, oh, I'm only a Spotify guy, and then you're like, no, I wouldn't pay for that, so I use Google Podcasts. Guess what? We're on both. We're on every single one of those. We're on there. Guess what? It's there, and it's free. Don't worry about it. Just download it and leave a 5-star comment or something, you know, like whatever you gotta do. Make the algorithm work. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Do the Right Thing is one of our most popular episodes. Of course, can't pass Ben-Hur. I don't know what the fuck happened there, but it is one of our most popular episodes, and I'm so happy about that, because I'm happy about the episode. I think we were able to cover some deep topics, which is funny to go from how deep that was to this, but where we're like, I don't know about the punchies.
It also gives me sort of like, it gives me faith in like people actually caring about like film academia.
Yes.
We're like, oh, you actually give a shit that we're talking about the AFI list.
Exactly. I agree too, where I'm like, oh, thank God.
I'm sure those things are like, I'm sure a lot of people have probably already tackled it, but maybe never like consistently kept up with it or finished it all.
Yes, exactly.
But we're determined.
We're determined. It might take 2-3 years, but we're gonna fucking do it. Which, yes, next up on the AFI list is The Last Picture Show. So if you want to keep up with our show, go watch The Last Picture Show. I believe that'll be our next episode. Unless something comes up that me and Deshaun have to talk about for our next episode, which I'm thinking we're going to have to do Tales of the Jedi as a fucking episode when that comes out in October, even though we usually do monster shit.
Generally speaking, we tend to like fucking kowtow to whatever the mouse puts out as far as Star Wars is concerned.
Yeah. You're like, hey, is that Is that Star Wars? Give me that shit.
But yeah, next that would be 2 weeks from now. Yeah, probably Last Picture Show, and then it's October. So I refuse to do anything that's not horror related.
Yes, I agree. I think the Tales of the Jedi will
Especially
probably
since
be
we'll
a
have-
November thing, but
Especially since we have like less episodes in a month.
Yes.
Like now, I'm really gonna push. Like we gotta make the most of these episodes. I want
Yes.
to talk about my spooky shit.
which we will. Don't worry, guys. It's spooky season. Get ready for some spooky episodes. If you missed our spooky episodes from last year, we had a ton of them. So check them out. And we had more even the year before. So thank you guys for supporting the show. If you want to support us personally, we are on Instagram and Twitter as Yep Frank and
Not correct. Huh?
And then also I got a Yep Gundam thing for all these Gundam down here. You can see this Jaeger here, which I finished up today and posted the first picture of.
I like that you got your Gundam volumes to go with your Gundams.
Oh, yeah, now I got the Thunderbolt. I literally got all of Gundam Thunderbolt, which was not an easy task to do. But Newberry Comics had the buy one, get one half off, and I basically got a book and a half for free. So I was like buying 6 volumes, and I was like, I was like, there you go. Especially because they're expensive. These normal manga's $10. This is 15, and you're like, damn.
It's so funny because before you were just like, I can't get the rest of the Origin manga. It's gonna take up too much space. There's a lot of them, you liar.
I know. I was thinking that too. I was like, now do I have to get Origin? I was like, damn, do I now have to get Origin? Which I do love Origin, so I some point. Maybe. But I did a first little review of Thunderbolt. Fantastic. Loved it. And guys, thank you so much for checking out the Warp Shell podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Adios.
We'll see you next time.